welcome to Freethinker Radio on 90.1 KPFT Houston here on the HD3 dial. My name is Derek Brose. I'm here with Micah Jackson.
Yep. Welcome back, Derek.
Yeah, thanks for holding it down while I was gone. Micah's always here. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Today is Monday, May 16th, 2016.
You make me miss you when you're not on the radio show, man.
I miss being
here.
I'm
all right, you know.
I miss being here when I'm not here. I had a good week, though. I was in Arizona and got to spend some time in the outdoors, hiking and in the forest, so that's always fun. A little recharge.
Yeah, definitely. Gotta take some time out of the regular and just spend it in reflection and nature or art or
absolutely,
whatever it is that you can just let go.
But I saw you had a cool guest on last week, or a couple guests.
Yeah, it was a fun week. You know, I've noticed that sometimes we don't cover as much news as some other times, but a lot of this stuff is important when you think about the power of believing in yourself, and that's an important thing in any pursuit of freedom. The power of believing in yourself and creating something like the musicians and the various merchants and artists that we know do, and then having them come in and talk about things, that is news, Yeah. I remember a music video from when I was a teen, and it was like the dad came in and screamed at him. He was watching the music video, and he's like, "This is the news." He's like, "I want to watch the news." But, I had a lot of articles I wanted to cover, so hopefully, we can get into some of those as well. But I really appreciate everybody that, sticks with us and finds value in what we do and shares that with other people, because that means the world to us. We're working to get these musicians in new ears, these concepts and ideas and news items in new people's ears, so anybody that goes the distance and shares or lets someone know about that means the world, because that's what we're doing, and
absolutely.
Trying to make something happen here on community radio.
And I want to remind you guys again that you can find all the archives of the show last week's. We've got everything caught up now, pretty much every single episode. There was one that didn't broadcast live, but that was not on our end. But other than that, we have every show posted on the Houston Freethinkers YouTube, youtube.com/Houston Freethinkers. And also, later today, we will have another video posted for you related to our monthly meeting, which we held last week. And I want to talk about that for a moment before we start talking about what's going on in the city and get back to some more music. But, Micah was here holding it down on the radio. And then Thursday night, we had the Houston Freethinkers meeting for May. We had a guest speaker from Houston Nonviolent Communication, and her name was Karen. And actually, I think probably in a couple weeks she'll come on the show and talk more about it. So I don't want to take away too much of her information. But generally, nonviolent communication is a form of communication. It's a a communication tool. Some people call it compassionate communication. That was developed by this guy named Marshall Rosenberg, and he wrote the book about it. And he did kind of went around the world helping conflicts and people develop ways to have conflict resolution and things like that. So people have started nonviolent communication chapters around the world to spread these ideas, and there's one here in the Houston area. They do classes and workshops, and they work with the Houston Green Party. But we had her come out and just give us a basic background of what this idea is, and it was pretty cool. We had about 4 different people do role playing. Like one of the people in the group sort of pretending, like saying like, "Oh, my boss is always giving me crap," like, and then her pretending to be the boss, and just like how here's a strategy to try to talk to your boss and connect with him and empathize with him and be able to communicate effectively. So that was pretty cool. So thank you to Karen. That video though is going to be on the Houston Freethinkers YouTube channel as well by the end of today, or maybe tomorrow. It should be up there. And all that information will be there. And as I said, we hope to have her on the show soon, so you can hear more about NVC. And definitely advise you check out the talk. It's just 20 minutes or so. The whole thing was about an hour, but it's the first 20 minutes of her talk and her ideas about that. And you can look them up, Houston Nonviolent Communication, wherever you're at. Even if you're not listening from Houston, there's probably an NVC chapter or group somewhere near you. Or you can just start one, I guess, if you wanted to, learn more about it and get kind of versed in the ways and the methods of it and the strategies and the ideas, and see how that works out for you. And we also set our calendar for the month, and I want to take a moment to kind of throw you a couple dates your way to be aware of this month. Those being, so we're here at this weekend. This Friday, a big thing that we'll talk more about. We might have Monica from Super Houston calling today, but a big thing we want to let you guys know. This Friday night, if you're interested in music, you're interested in drinking, you're interested in having a good time, you're interested in supporting the community, if you like soup, this is your event. Super Houston, SOUPER Houston. Go to their Facebook page, give them a like, click, notifications, follow, whatever you got to do to make sure you see everything they have coming up so you can check out all their events. But this Friday at Avant Garden here in Montrose, Friday night, they're going to be hosting their next event, and it's called Compassion Party, being hosted by Super Houston, and you can find it under that title, Compassion Party, hosted by Super Houston. It's on Facebook, Friday night at 7, and the basic idea is that you come in, you pay $5, you get to hear 3 or 4 presentations from people in the community, ideas they have, projects they're hoping to fulfill, things like that, and you can vote on your favorite at the end of it. You also get to hear music, and you get to try soup. People bring soup, so if you want to enter the soup contest, because there's also a vote on your favorite soup, make one. I think I kind of made a promise or a threat, however you want to look at it, to make a soup and enter the contest this time. So I'll be doing that. And Avant Garden's a cool place. Our good friend Jade, who's also involved with the Houston Freethinkers, she was responsible for getting some of the music. So I think Worst Nightmare is going to be doing a set there for Super
nice.
Houston.
Yeah, and he was through Freethinker Radio a little while back. Y'all might remember. Jesse came in and talked to everybody. So yeah, Avant's an amazing building and just a vibe all around. So
check that out Friday night, definitely. Like I said, Super Houston, like them on Facebook. Go check out the Facebook event. We're going to post that for those who are following along on Facebook using that medium. We have the Facebook event that you can find on Freethinker Radio, live music with Devil Killing Moth, an interview with Planet Ford. We are starting a thread now, and you can follow all the stories that we're going to be talking on there, and of course we try to keep them in the archives, the show notes, to keep you updated. So that's this Friday. Then Saturday there's going to be the March Against Monsanto Houston. I really wish we had somebody, one of the organizers. We kind of helped out peripherally, the Houston Freethinkers, and kind of worked with the March Against Monsanto people. Anthony Santos used to live in Houston. He moved away. Deandra, he's a cool dude. He lives here in Houston still. He may be involved. I'm not really sure who's all involved now, but I know there's people planning to do a march. Generally they go to the Galleria area. Let me see if I can find it.
Cody.
And lots of people from the Houston Freethinkers have been involved with it over the years, and it's definitely, I believe it's a worthy cause, raising awareness on the corruption that exists between companies like Monsanto and the U.S. government. I don't necessarily always think that going to march at the Galleria, that Starbucks, is the most effective way to reach people or reach new people or to change people's minds. When we were involved, we definitely encouraged people like, hey, after we do this, let's all go to the Last Organic Outpost and build a garden together, or do something like that. But I'm looking at the event, and it's Saturday, May 21st at 1 p.m., the intersection of Westheimer and Post Oak Boulevard. We're going to post both of those events on the Freethinker Radio Facebook event for today, and you can check those out if you'd like. Definitely, like I said, I support everybody who's making an effort to go out on a Saturday and try to connect with people. I just hope all those who are going to go out there and hold a sign or do the marches around that intersection and talk to people, especially when you set up a protest with the rules are already kind of like guiding what's acceptable, like stay on the sidewalk,
no big sticks,
do this, no big, all this kind of stuff, where the police
no megaphones.
The police are just they're controlling. We're marching within the parameters that the oppressors are setting, is basically what I would say. But again, if you take the time to go out there, I commend you for just giving a crap and taking the time to go do that.
See, this truth and passion and human heart is so strong that even within those parameters, it's still able to do something. So I still believe it serves a purpose, and you should believe it serves a purpose. But at the same time, as you do something, you can recognize how effective it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. So my hope is that more people will take other actions in their community, and that kind of leads me to the next event that I want to talk about, which is it's still more than a month away, or just about maybe 3 weeks away, but I want to mention it because it will be one of the early things. Before I get to that, though, if you missed this Houston Freethinker meeting for May, the next one is going to be Thursday, June 2nd at the Midtown Bar and Grill upstairs, where we usually host these at. So check that out. We really would like to have more people coming out, and we're working on some exciting things to see what we can do to encourage more people to come out, to make it worth your time and energy, and to effectively move our community forward. We've been doing this, this is one thing we talked about at the meeting, is we've been doing this for 6 years now, and we want to keep finding ways to remain effective and relevant. And also I want to have, like, later this month, June or July, have a 6-year anniversary get together, and maybe we can invite a lot of old freethinker faces and friends that we've met over the years and see who wants to come out and just reconnect. And then again, maybe we can brainstorm on like, hey, what does this mean to you? Is this something you're still interested in? As long as it's relevant and it's a force for good, then I will put whatever energy I have, and I know other people feel the same. So I just want to keep making sure that we're effective in the way we move forward. But if you want to come forward and put your ideas out, that's June 2nd, Thursday. That'll be the next meeting. I do know that also other events coming up for May, that the North Houston Freethinkers are doing a park cleanup coming up maybe this Saturday, I think the 21st, over at Meyer Park, which is kind of towards Spring Cypress area. So if you're out on that side, go check out the North Houston Freethinkers Facebook page, and they're going to plan to do a documentary screening as well later this month. So they've got a couple things going on there.
I mean, it's really nice. That's one of the variety of events that Houston Freethinkers and I guess the various other or lack thereof of free thinkers that pop up like to do or are demographically predisposed to do is go to a park and clean it up. But check it out. The whole idea is like you're going there and you're trying to make the place better, and it's you on one side you've got like protesting about all this stuff, and then on the other side you've got like going out meeting people at a park, maybe meeting some skate kids, meeting whoever it is. But at the same time, I remember the one that was done at Easy 7, Ernesto and Jesus and everybody that helped with that. They brought new trash cans, new 50-gallon drum barrels, and they tagged them up and made them look really nice, and they just went about immediately doing their work when they got there, and people were like, what are these people doing? So I like a lot of that, what do you call it, I like a lot of that stuff. I'm not so much into going up to senators' offices and have them meet us with horses and shove us around, and things like that. Although, it is frustrating because I think there's things and that we do need to get out and let them know. And when you go and you find out that half the time their office doesn't even know what the rules are, you got to wonder how effective that is. So there's so many facets in serving freedom because it's such a monolithic, massive, unified whole that I like the diversity of action that HFT and some of these other friends have moved into. The evolution of the action that you see across 6 years. So I hope that whatever event occurs that at the anniversary thing, that there's some speaking to that and some addressing how and what that really means about our own movement forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for it. And that's, we'll see how that looks later in the summer. But yeah, it's been 6 years since we started having physical meetings. It was over the summer of 2010. And really things started to solidify, I think, in the fall of 2010. Then in further in 2011, we really had a big year. And as Micah said, everything that he mentioned, from meeting with senators to being confronted with by cops or, addressing cops' action, all those things were, things that we dealt with in the past. And if and when the time is necessary, when there's, threats to freedom in our community, that we definitely, can organize towards those type of actions. But more and more we're seeing our actions put towards how can we better our community, how can we how can we help each other and improve ourselves, improve the community around us,
expand our own understanding and I guess to some degree access to freedom, as well as our friends' understanding and access to that. And I think also there's a lot more understanding of the weight, even when it goes to the political, of the local.
Absolutely.
I got about 10 events that I'd like to just cruise through real quick, just happening. They're not... Wednesday, there's going to be our friends Mojave Red. They've come through for the community, played different shows. They are going to be over at Barbarella. On Thursday, the Natsuo Drawing Studio. If you haven't been through that and you're into art, that may be a good thing to check out. Mantra Love's kicking off their tour along with Mind Shrine, who just were awesome and played to pretty much a full house at Down Electro Saturday. I mean, the place was pretty full. So that's over 9 p.m. on Thursday at Satellite, and Pasadena Strawberry Festival is going on. I don't know much about that, but a few bands that we work with say that's always a blast down there on the south side. So it's a good way to get out, meet people, and do something if you're stuck out in Stinkadena. Let's see. And Bell Ringers coming back to town. They'll be playing with Funeral Horse Linus Pauling Quartet Friday at Rudyard's. Matt Cash, our good friend from Cassette Tape. If you've never seen him solo, it's really a good thing to see. And he does so many different things than you see with Cassette Tape. That's going on at a place I hadn't heard of, but seems pretty popular up on the north side. So maybe some North Houston Freethinker friends can check it out. It's at Jive Bar out on Luetta Road Friday night. And there's this other thing that's been going on lately. I don't know if you've seen it or got out to it, Derek, but it seems kind of cool. It's called the Metal Merchants Swap Meet. And the next one is going on May 22nd at White Swan. And there's a Industry bike ride kicking off Sunday, and I'm almost done with these things. And what else? What else on Sunday? Sunday Drum Day. Oh, yeah. Sunday Streets. Why do I sound so distorted? Is it just my headphones?
It's just your headphones.
Okay, Sunday Drum Jam in the park at Menil. That's always well received. And our good friend Lori Chandler, as well as other poets, are going to be at the Betts and Denslow Art Foundry and Studio in spring. So a lot going on the north side.
Yeah, lots of things happening, and the Sunday Streets thing is also coming up where, they closed down a portion of some of the streets in Houston. This time they're going to be over in the White Oak area, closing down the street, and it's, let's see, from 12 p.m. I think they usually go for, a few hours where they close down all car traffic and encourage biking and walking, and people usually are out there, setting up businesses, playing music. I think it's a great opportunity for people to go info jam if those are interested. I might be doing that because I've been thinking, as we're just kind of reflecting on like the growth of Houston Freethinkers over the last 6 years. And I really think that for my part, that I think in the beginning, a lot of the growth came from organic, getting out there and talking to people and putting flyers on cars, putting flyers in hands, putting them out over at coffee shops, putting them out,
you can't doubt it because you meet these people doing that and then you see them when they come through,
Yeah, and so, I really feel like that is, if I can, use any sort of encouragement towards anybody listening and who feels like they're a part of the Freethinker community, both in Houston and elsewhere, that I think our conversations and the actions we take outside of the online Facebook world are just as important, if not even more valuable than the things we do there. So that's something I'm personally going to try to push more on as we look forward to the next few years.
I forgot one event. I'm only bringing it up. I'm not going to probably get to go to it, but I'm only bringing it up because of a certain terror attack. The Eagles of Death Metal are playing Wednesday at House of Blues.
Wednesday? That would be cool to go to an interview.
I think so, too, and we should try to get
maybe we can try to pull something last minute. Yeah, for those who don't know, the Eagles of Death Metal, they were playing in Paris whenever the terror attack a couple months back happened, and he had some interesting things to say about it, so that might be a real strong interview. And last event I want to tell you before we go to some music and then come back and dive into Houston news and tell you what's happening in our city is, again, this is the event I was building.
What about today's show, too? We got a tremendous show today.
We do have an awesome show today. I don't know if you guys heard us earlier. We got Devil Killing Moth and Plant It Forward coming. And I'm excited for the Plant It Forward one because this next event that I want to tell you guys about involves them as being part of this. And like I said, this is 3 weeks away, but Houston Garden Crawl, an event that I've talked about and brainstormed on for at least over a year now, and finally coming to fruition. But on Saturday, June 11th, we're going to have a day of biking, gardens, music, and lots of fun. We're going to be basically encouraging people to bike or skateboard or longboard, whatever they do, or if you don't have one of those, drive your car from each location, maybe carpool with other people to save some space. And we're going to be going to 5 or 6 different garden locations throughout the inner loop of Houston, meeting at Market Square Park downtown around noon, and then riding out about 12:30. Then going to 5 different gardens, spending time at each garden. At each garden, we're going to have some acoustic music, maybe some art. There will be a little bit of snacks and some food. Each garden will have somebody from their team giving a presentation about what they specialize in, what they have going on. And we're going to end the last organic outpost for a nice, big, awesome party, get together, check out the loo. And throughout the day, there will be opportunities to volunteer and get your hands dirty in the soil if you want to do that. And I do encourage you to do that. And yeah, so the whole thing's going to last from noon till sunset or so. And it's really inspired for me by old community events like the Counter Crawl and just different, people do pub crawls and things like that.
Props to Counter Crawl and its legacy because it was an amazing event.
Absolutely, and that's kind of what I'm inspired here. And these type of things happen, but usually it's like, okay, people are crawling, quote unquote, to one bar to the next or whatever, right? Or you're just doing things like that. We want to encourage people to, go out, be outside, check out all these different gardens. And there's more than a handful. We're only picking 5 or 6 of them within this certain neighborhoods. We're going to hit the East Side, Third Ward, Montrose, Heights, and you'll get to see a lot of examples of different gardens. One might be at an elementary school, some are communities, some are just put together by people,
It's going to have as much diversity as an art crawl or a pub crawl.
Yeah, so I'm excited for it, and we're working on music too, so contact Visionary Noise or Freethinker Radio if you think you might want to play a set on one of the stops. We literally just created the Facebook event for it today. Look, Houston Garden Crawl on Facebook if you want to find that, and of course all those events that I just listed, I think Michael will do the same. I put them in the thread we started. You can find them there, and we'll be posting them on the Freethinker Radio Facebook page. Right now I'm going to jump to a song from our friends Collective Dreams from San Antonio, and then we will be back with some more information. We got interviews coming up from Planet Forward, Devil Killing Moth, lots of exciting things coming today on Freethinker Radio, so please stay tuned. You're listening to 90.1 KPFT on the HD3 dial. Welcome back to Freethinker Radio.
You never left.
Yeah, hopefully you never left. We're just sitting here conversing about just all this awesome shows coming to Houston, apparently, called the Houston Open Air Festival. They just announced the full lineup today. Looks pretty epic for fans of like older rock and metal, and maybe some newer, more current bands. But if you're into that, you should check that out. Houston Open Air Festival. We're gonna do what we can to maybe go spend some time there and go there, hang out, and get some audio for Freethinker Radio, of course.
Alice in Chains. Let's go ahead and give them the free. There's some good. The Cult.
The Cult, Ministry.
Deftones, right?
Deftones. What's it called? Avenged Sevenfold. Slayer.
Yeah, so it's open air.
Pretty, and it's Sepultura, like a good mix of like older bands like that. The first show I ever went to in 1999, like a bigger show, not local show, was Slayer, Slipknot, Sepultura, like all these old school.
See what happened to you?
I got kicked in the face. I lost my front tooth is fake now. Like literally the first show I went to, I came home to my parents, like smiled really big, my tooth like cracked and half missing. My mom's like, oh no. It was pretty awesome.
Word.
But yeah, so let's talk about what's happening in Houston. This is a big old can of worms, and I think actually this is a topic that I want to encourage some call-ins. 713-526-8737. The Houston area school districts react to Obama's transgender bathroom directive. Now, this is related to just a couple of days ago, the Obama administration announced this new directive, which, we're not really sure if it's a legal thing or if they're just kind of saying like, hey, this is what schools should do. But they announced this directive saying that schools across the country must allow transgender students to use the restrooms of their choice. And after this happened, they said phone calls from concerned parents came into Fort Bend ISD on Friday morning. Nancy Porter, spokeswoman for Houston area's third largest district, says, we know how polarizing this is in our nation. That's why we're trying to handle this with sensitivity for the best interest of all students. Public schools must permit transgender students to use bathrooms and locker rooms consistent with their chosen gender identity, according to an Obama administration directive issued amid a court fight between the federal government and North Carolina. So we have, whatever you think about the issue, we have the states battling out in North Carolina over this new law, and then you have the federal government kind of intervening, saying this is the directive, this is what the policy we want all states to follow, and all school districts. The guidance from leaders at the Departments of Education and Justice say public schools are obligated to treat transgender students in a way that matches their gender identity, even if their education records or identity documents indicate a different sex. Attorney General Loretta Lynch said in a statement accompanying the directive, there is no room in our schools for discrimination of any kind, including discrimination against transgender students on the basis of their sex. Houston ISD is the largest school district in the state, and in 2011 it revised its policies to specify that employees must not discriminate against their colleagues or students based on gender identity or gender expression. HISD trustee Anna Eastman says that I hope we can all get beyond a political battle in the media and make sure we are taking care of all of our kids so they have safe places to learn. Transgender students who are more likely to be bullied, to be homeless, to commit suicide because they are misunderstood, don't want to hurt others. They just want the assumption of safety and comfort most of us already have. In a statement Friday, the Houston Independent School District says that while its policy doesn't mention restrooms, administrators are, quote, counseled to make accommodations that are aligned with the letter and spirit of the district's policy prohibiting student discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. Other area districts such as Cy-Fair and Klein said they similarly responded to students' requests on a case-by-case basis. And Fort Bend ISD said her district is offering sensitivity training to administrators over the summer. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick of Texas on Friday said he rallied against the Obama administration's action, calling it a come-and-take-it issue. Patrick said he does not think the White House interpretation of Title IX on this issue will hold up in court. He said the new guidelines, which do not have the force of law, are going to cause a backlash from parents who are going to pull their children out of public schools if the Obama directive becomes mandatory. Obama did it sooner than I thought, but I said on Tuesday that this was a statewide and national issue. Patrick said, I believe it is the biggest issue facing families and schools in America since prayer was taken out of schools. Patrick accused the White House of trying to hurt the poorest school children in Texas, since the majority of federal education funds the state receives goes to feed those who need free or reduced lunches. Obama says he's willing to withhold funding if schools don't follow the policies. Well, in Texas, he can keep his 30 pieces of silver, Patrick said. We will not yield to blackmail from the President of the United States. And Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton threatened a legal battle with the federal government over the guidelines. He says, if President Obama thinks he can bully Texas schools into allowing men to have open access to girls in bathrooms, he better prepare for yet another legal fight. This weekend, the delegates to the Texas Republican National Convention in Dallas will vote, and this was just this past weekend, so maybe there's some update on this, but it said the past weekend, the delegates to the Texas RNC, or Republican Convention, in Dallas voted on the plank to their party platform that urges lawmakers to enact legislation addressing individuals' use of bathrooms, showers, and locker rooms that correspond with their biologically determined sex. The proposal is expected to pass easily, as it has been a hot topic of conversation for a while. And yeah, so that's how some of the school districts are responding, and that's how some of the lawmakers in Texas are responding. How are you responding? What are your thoughts? Is this even an issue of your concern? Are you, as a parent, if we have parents out there listening?
Why has my kid got to go to school?
713-526-8737. Yeah, that's a whole other topic. I think many parents we know would say that if they had the ability, they probably would not even have their kids in these schools. And some parents don't. Some parents, homeschool, unschool them. They find different ways to not have their kids in these institutions.
Speaking about kids and bathrooms and schools.
Yeah, so whatever your thoughts on that. If you feel like calling in, let us know.
With that being the case, there's a trial set for a former Quinlan ISD employee, coach / police officer that's charged with sexual assault of a child. You got to worry about who's in bathrooms, The school cop might be in there. So the trial is starting this week for a former Quinlan ISD employee, coach, and Terrell Police Department officer indicted on multiple charges alleging he had an improper relationship with a student. Jury selection is scheduled for the 354th District Court Monday for the accused, who has pled not guilty to 3 counts of sexual assault of a child and 2 charges of improper relationship between an educator and a student. The indictments were issued by the Hunt County Grand Jury October 2015. He was arrested in October 26 of 2015 after warrants were obtained by the Quinlan ISD Police Department, alleging that Lewis engaged in a sexual relationship with 15-year-old at the high school during the 2013-14 school year. Story goes on. But, yeah, if you're worried about, some kid that is identifying as this or that, just remember who's, the boss to these kids. People like this man.
People like that man. So this is another interesting one here from the ATF. You guys remember there was this...
is that a convenience store?
The ATF, the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, etc., etc.
Oh, I thought that was a convenience.
They got a long title.
They're getting it longer so you can forget them.
There was an explosion recently in West Texas. Some of y'all remember this the West Fertilizer Company that blew up. And this was in 2013, excuse me. But the ATF is now saying this has been one of their most labored and expensive fire investigations ever. They said that this deadly blaze that destroyed the West Fertilizer Company in 2013 was a criminal act and is pleading for the public's help. The news opened old wounds in this small agricultural town north of Waco, reignited rumors, frustrated residents trying to move on with their lives, and threatened to complicate a mound of litigation against the plant and its suppliers. Anticipating questions about why it has taken 3 years, Special Agent in Charge Robert Elder outlined the meticulous nature of the investigation. And the ATF spent more than $2 million building life-size replicas of the parts of the plant and interviewing more than 400 people to reach the conclusion that the fire was set in the seed room. Victims' families were briefed hours earlier. And they're saying no arrests have been made. The investigation remains open. They're offering up to $500,000 for information leading to an arrest. And McLennan County Crime Stoppers is offering another $2,000. So, yeah, there's no evidence of terrorism, they say, but they do say that there was some criminal act that set this fertilizer explosion, and, it's caused damage. And, yeah, so there's something else going on. There's people setting off bombs not too far from Houston at fertilizer. And other Houston news that I found here is related to psychologists. And this one is interesting to me because I did a story recently, a national story about the psychologists. We'll talk more about this later, but the psychologists involved in the U.S. torture program, how now a federal judge has basically said they're allowed to be held accountable. They'll probably be the only people held accountable. The people who actually wrote the books and made the decisions won't be like the Obama administration officials, but these 2 psychologists who were seen as the architects of the torture program, and they developed it and made millions of dollars off selling it to the U.S. government, they're going to be held responsible. So to me, that's a really just important to note the power that psychologists and authorities and people with credentials have in our society, and sometimes often undue support of the people, it seems. And so this is a Houston psychologist who's now pleading guilty to tampering with police evaluations. Excuse me. A Houston psychologist and her husband have pleaded guilty to tampering with mental health evaluations for peace officer candidates, a move that has left more than a dozen police agencies in the Houston area scrambling to retest officers to ensure they are fit for duty. So there may be officers out there who are not fit for duty that they just let pass. Carol Busick and her husband Don Busick, licensed professional counselor, were sentenced to 10 years deferred adjudication, so they got 10 years probation, meaning the charges against them will be dropped if they complete probation. They are also ordered to repay $8,762 to 4 agencies that paid for their services. Both of them are 67 years old, and they will voluntarily relinquish their professional licenses and retire from practices according to the plea deal. The couple has been charged with tampering with a government document, a felony that can carry a maximum penalty of up to 10 years. They were accused of cutting corners on the exams of job candidates for peace officer positions by not performing face-to-face interviews with candidates. The Busicks have maintained that they did not know that face-to-face exams were required by the state, and did them when asked by local agencies. Their attorney said the psychologist just wants to put this behind her. So hopefully, due to their lack of work, I guess. I mean, this is like a state system that says, hey, if we're gonna evaluate officers, they need to undergo these processes, which I guess, definitely there's some angry, violent police officers out there. We should have some kind of accountability and to check them for mental health. So that seems reasonable enough to have. And these two people were just saying, like, what, screw this. We don't actually need to meet them. They can probably just answer some questions online. And, seems safe to me. Hopefully nobody else was hurt in the process of making this police department. What you got on your end, man?
All kinds of things. Some of them more interesting than others. But there was I thought there's this one story, I don't want to go too deep into it, but a victim in a Houston police crash died from their injuries. What's interesting is they don't say what the person they were chasing was charged with. We got a death involved. The people there, all kinds of little gaps, it seems. But yeah, so a high-speed chase killed a person. But other than that, I had a couple of articles I meant to get to last week, but we just had so much action happening constantly that we didn't get to it. This one was from the Houston Press saying that under state law, and we've mentioned this cite and release and different things before, but under state law, local cops don't have to jail you for pot. And the reason I'm bringing this up is just a couple of weeks ago, a whole bunch of people went down to the Harris County Criminal Court building on Franklin Street to deliver a pretty straightforward message. They're tired of seeing people go to jail for possessing a plant. And there's epileptic women, veterans, all kinds of people that went out there. The veteran said, I've always been a law-abiding citizen, and so happened to, when they moved from California to Houston, all of a sudden being considered a criminal, as a free person or whatever, is enraging. The Marijuana March was one of the many things taking place across the globe, organized here in Houston by NORML. And the list goes on a little bit further. Turns out that this is kind of what we've mentioned here. Devin Anderson, the DA, efforts to decriminalize weed include the being recognized by the Houston NAACP, which gave him an award for First Chance Intervention Program. I don't know if this deserves an award or not. Tell me what you think. Y'all call in. It's a diversion program for first-time low-level marijuana. Here's the word: offender. That lets them off the hook in exchange for 3 months of community service and staying clean. Although the program had a rocky start in January, Anderson made it mandatory for law enforcement in Harris County to offer the program to people before throwing them in jail, as many were doing before. So that's, I guess it's, a little less of a beat down. But, it's like, this is the thing, in 2007, the state legislature passes a law that granted all police officers in Texas the authority to cite and release, which everybody thinks is great. Yay! Now I don't have to, go to prison and have weird things for using a plant and not hurting anybody. People accused of certain Class A and B misdemeanors, among them possession of less than 4 ounces, a Q, criminal mischief, theft.
Quarter pound.
So you if you got a QP or less, you're being associated like with a thief.
You got a cutie?
Yeah, and driving with an invalid license. So they're saying, look, it's not so bad that we're treating you like a thief. It's just like giving someone a ticket
for your own good.
Yeah, as opposed to booking them in the jail. So cite and release. Here's the positive side they argue for. means people get to keep their jobs. See, they're letting you keep your job, and all kinds of nice things that they're letting you do. And
Thank you.
It turns out that goodness, I was going to get into this. Next story is about a $2 million grant that they received to basically fix up the jails and such. So instead of going too deep in them, we got a very busy show. I'm going to post both of these in the string, and you can get into them a little bit and see what's up.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw in a couple more Houston stories, and we're going to go back with some music, and we'll get back into some national things. We got guests coming up, lots of things to cram into today's shows, and we want to remind you that even without our musical guests and our call-in guests, we can never cover the amount of important things going on in the world that we would like to in the span of 2 hours. We try to cram it through. Sometimes it may seem like we're covering a lot of information because there's so many things that we believe are important and that you should be concerned with. So please do follow and go up and click get notifications from Freethinker Radio, the Houston Freethinkers, and Visionary Noise. You'll hear all about all the music we promote, all of the news that we're concerned with, our upcoming events, etc., and you won't be left in the dark. So I mentioned a few moments ago that last weekend was the Texas Republican Convention, and this is, of course, where the states start to pick who they want to select to go be president. And it says that thousands of delegates gathered Thursday through Saturday in Dallas for the biennial convention of the Republican Party of Texas. And it's saying that Governor Greg Abbott here of Texas said, and the state attorney general and the lieutenant governor all basically called and said the party needs to get united behind Donald Trump. And I guess that's the direction Texas is going as well, is saying that this is where you need to put your energy behind. So take that for whatever it's worth.
Yeah.
It's not worth much.
If you want to be a collectivist and a blind one at that.
So that's what the RNC is saying, or the Texas Republican Party is saying. Another issue that I thought was important, this also involves the governor of Texas. This is one area where he's making a little bit of sense. But Governor Greg Abbott said Monday, today, the fight is not finished when it comes to regulations in Austin that have driven ride-hailing companies out of the state capital. The issue is not over, he said in an interview with CNBC. Republicans in the Texas legislature have already raised proposals coming up in the next session to override the Austin vote. And this is about Lyft and Uber, so-called ride-sharing services, which are now being driven out of Austin and have already threatened to leave Texas or Houston soon as well because of overregulation. And just in Houston, you've already, if you're outside the Houston area, which Houston is pretty big, but say you live in one of the suburbs, you can drive people from your suburb into Houston without having to get these extra paperwork. But if you're actually picking people up in Houston, you got to go through all these extra steps, and it's just overwhelming for a lot of people, and it does discourage certain people from becoming, an entrepreneur in this way and just making some extra money by driving cars. And I have problems with Uber and Lyft myself, so I'm not saying they're perfect, but just as the state getting in the way of people just saying like, hey, we want to be able to drive each other around, we don't need taxis. And in Houston, I can say last year when those regulations were first pushed into Houston, it was the taxi lobby that came in there hard, fighting for the city, saying like, why are they getting away with this? They should have to pay all the same things we have to pay, and they should have to do all the same things we do, instead of recognizing, hey, maybe it would benefit all of us if we had a little bit more freedom, instead of saying let's all be slaves together. But that's just my take. One last thing, according to a new study, more millennials are living at home in Houston. About 1 in 5 young adults are living at home in Houston, according to a study from Zillow Incorporated.
It's just getting worse.
They released a new report saying that millennials between the ages, and this is, you can see a kind of variation of what people call millennials. This one says 24 to 34. I've seen 21 to 33, somewhere in that range. So early 20s to...
If you're alive, you can basically call yourself one.
Early 30s. Yeah, anyone between 0 and 99 is a millennial.
If you got a cell phone.
24 to 34 is like, it's kind of a range. Apparently more of these people, 1 in 5, this is my age group, live at home, I'm on the older side, live at home with their parents than any time in the past decade. Not me. In Houston, about 21% of millennials live at home with mom and dad, according to the Seattle-based real estate technology company. That percentage has increased. Wow, this is a pretty big increase. From 13% to 21% since 2005, and 17% in 2009.
I thought it was bad back then.
Nationally, an average of 21% of millennials live at home with their parents. El Paso, Texas had the largest share of millennials living at home, 34%. Omaha had the smallest share with 11%. Zillow attributed the rise in the so-called boomerang kids to rising rents amid a sluggish job market during the slow economic recovery. Over the past year, rents have risen by almost 3% nationally, while incomes have increased just 1.8%. The median rent for a home in Houston is $1,500, according to Zillow. Despite the oil slumps, rents are expected to inch up 1.6% over 2016.
So I've been living in the rough then.
Yeah, so this is
$1,500 for rent is the median.
I think this. Yeah, I know. We're living way below that. I think. So here's a list of the 4 major Texas cities on the report. San Antonio came in with 24.6 millennials living at home. Houston is second with 21%.
Quarter of the population?
Yeah, I know. Houston's at 21% at 1/5 of the population. Dallas at 19%, and Austin coming in low with 14.3%. So, yeah, I think this is important. The reason, this is even a story to me. Some people are like, okay, I've thought about this often, like how it slowly generationally changes where more people like aren't able to get out on their own. More people are going to be consistently broke. Like I've noticed more friends seem to have several jobs or just always
more parents
coming
never
up.
Get to be free.
Yeah, that's another thing is like the idea of like, okay, your kid turns 18 and they leave the nest, whatever. Now it's like nearly impossible for a lot of people to do that, or they're coming back more often. I guess that's the boomerang thing they're talking about. So it's interesting. This is, of course, in Houston where we are based, the economy is based on oil. We definitely feel.
I think it's cool, like when a family can and there's no problems and stuff like that, But having all this outside pressure be the reasoning for it or whatever is, a bit rough. But at the same time, things have been. I don't remember any great economic boom time for 20-year-olds ever. Okay, you're 20, you don't have any
life is just always tough in the 20s.
Yeah, now, like, maybe this is just like stay home a little bit more, and then we'll have like them taken care of for a while. And then by the time they complain, they'll just be like, why are you 40 years old?
Like, are you ever going to leave?
Like, really, like think about it. Like when they finally get out and they're out in the world and they start to deal with things. I mean, they're 40 years old.
I think I'm ready to move out, Mom. The market's good enough now.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
All right, we're going to go to a song from So Soon the Truth.
Mark's closing. I did want to mention that.
Go for
that. Just briefly, in a 1920s era church that previously was occupied by a head shop and goth punk clothing store Dream Merchant, the Westheimer landmark shall be closing. I won't go into too much detail because, like I said, I just want to let y'all know. So you better get to Mark's on one of them Sundays, get them mimosas or whatever before it's too late.
Hook up a mimosa. Let us know when you're getting one. Send us one. Come have one with us.
Something to do in Montrose.
So Soon the Truth with Catharsis. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. We got interviews coming up with Devil Killing Moth, Planet Forward, and lots more news for you here on Freethinker Radio. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Don't fall.
All right. Hope y'all are enjoying that music here on Freethinker Radio. That's one of the favorite parts of this show, is being able to share good music with you. At first, the first song you heard was by So Soon the Truth, and the second one was Scorpio Rising. Both of them are great bands, got a lot more work to check out. We're going to try to bring you more by some of the same bands and then repeat some of the songs. That way, one of these songs that clicked with you, you get to hear it again instead of you don't hear it again for a long time and you're like, who was that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason we post the show in the show notes who we're playing is if you find somebody like, we are open to requests. Yeah. We got music. And also, we're promoting Houston music, but if you're an independent artist out there and you got a song to play, we'd be happy to promote it and put your work out there. And especially if you've got a conscious, positive, or just a real message that is something that people should know about. We love promoting that kind of work.
For sure.
All right.
Now back with the chaos.
Let's get back into this crazy, crazy world. I've been gone for a week and a half now, so I'm kind of looking back at some older stories. But since we're moving out of Texas now into the larger picture here. One that I want to pull up just from a couple weeks ago study, and this seems to be a controversial study from all angles because some people are weary of studies, and the links that they propose, and whether or not it's reliable, let's just say that. But a new comprehensive study that looked at 50 years worth of studies on spanking claims that children who are spanked are more likely to defy their parents, exhibit antisocial behaviors, and experience mental health problems.
Maybe they should. If you're getting spanked, maybe you should defy your parents.
And experience mental health problems. Researchers with UT and Austin, this is why I'm talking about it's related to Texas, and the University of Michigan partnered together to analyze 50 years of spanking studies. The analysis, published in the Journal of Family Psychology, appears to confirm the negative effects of spanking found by previous researchers. Spanking makes children's behavior worse, lead author Elizabeth T. Gershoff told the Chicago Tribune. It has the opposite effect that what parents want. It doesn't make children better behaved. It doesn't teach children right from wrong. It's not related to immediate compliance, and it doesn't make children behave better in the future. Gershoff, who's an associate professor of human development and family sciences at UT in Austin, worked with Andrew Grogan Kaler, who is an associate professor at the University of Michigan School of Social Work. The researchers found that across different age groups, spanking seems to be an ineffective tool often associated with increased aggression, troubled behaviors, anxiety, and depression.
Is that why they give you SWATs in school?
Because you're just being bad, and so you just turn you more bad and spank you some more. Children who are spanked are also more likely to spank their own children. Gershoff and Grogan Kaler's study specifically examines the effects of spanking alone. We took all the data, this is the interesting part, is we took all the data that focuses just on spanking, which we defined as swatting a child on the behind with an open hand. Because when I post this study...
you can't spank them with the face with a fist.
I see some parents saying like, oh, well, that's not, well, what I did was, I did it in this way. Again, this is something I hope you'll call in. 713-526-8737. I've had some people say, well, are you a parent? And I'm like, no, I was a child, and I was raised by parents.
I'm a member of society.
I'm a person that has feelings. I think that allows me to make a comment.
I can read what studies
I understand
say,
that parents like to, prefer to take advice from other parents. But a study looking at 50 years worth of studies and analysis, is kind of saying this is what things
multiple
are pointing
universities.
Out. Yeah. To parents who say they were spanked and turned out fine, which is often a common response. I got spanked, I'm fine.
Despite being spanked, you turned out fine.
And this is what she says. Gershoff cautions, we turned out okay because our parents did other things like sat us down at the kitchen table and talked to us and gave us reasons why they wanted to see us behave. We turned out okay in spite of spanking, not because of it. The Tribune reports that corporal punishment is banned in close to 50 countries, including Germany, Spain, Kenya, Denmark, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The 2013 book, The Primordial Violence, also examined the issue of spanking, studying 4 decades of research before concluding that spanking slows cognitive development and increases antisocial and criminal behavior. Psychiatrist Paul Hollinger, founder of Chicago's Center for Child and Adolescent Psychotherapy, told the Tribune that the wide acceptance of spanking children stems from, quote, our history of treating children as property, which I think is an interesting concept and conversation as well.
Does it make you want to spank strangers?
And, in the article I bring up, the idea of peaceful parenting, nonviolent communication, as we were talking about earlier, and removing the violence from your communication in your relationship with children.
Little Johnny.
And just, finding other effective ways. And again, I don't think there's any sort
Usually
of
most people don't have the patience to take, I think, I had some stepchildren, and I think the communication's the biggest part. Most kids want to belong. They want to be loved and fit in and all the basic human things. So, it's not always the action that they're doing that's wrong as much as the application of the action. It's like got to teach the child, because this may be their strength and you may be trying to beat their strength out of them instead of like, showing them when to apply it,
Yeah, and I think I'm not a parent, but I'm friends with several people who do consider themselves peaceful parents, where they try to live by these various principles. And just a couple, according to peacefulparent.com, the key principles of peaceful parenting are based on a combination of research findings from attachment science, providing a safe environment for children to feel and express strong emotions, active listening skills, facilitating problem solving and creating agreements, using I statements for parents to express feelings and requests non-aggressively, setting limits with calm clarity while maintaining empathy, parents owning their strong feelings to avoid escalation, a deeper understanding of the feelings and unmet needs which drive a child's behavior. So those are all things that
I market small rubber rooms that you can put them in.
It takes more time. That's an approach that's going to take a lot more time and communication, but isn't your child worth that? I'd say so. But I do also understand
ideas can't be communicated without violence,
then they're not worth a damn. But I would say also I do have empathy for parents who are busy all the time, like just scraping
and
by,
so
trying
much
to get
stress
home.
On everybody.
You just come home, you're like, damn, I gotta deal with this at work that my kids are doing. I can totally empathize, but if we're trying to create a more positive, hopeful, empowered generation, I don't believe violence is the way that we're going to achieve that.
When that stress breaks us and we do something without the complete thought of the priority of our love to our child and bettering the world and stuff like that, we tend to act out of we tend to hurt our own interest. We are impugning ourselves in those moments. I'm sure every parent loses their patience here and there. I know I have, but I didn't spank, and I raised 2 children, and I didn't spank. Doesn't mean I didn't talk my head off, though. Good God.
Yeah, and one thing I will say, just as this a little piece of it that I've picked up from friends, like I said, who are really involved in this and really try to push themselves to communicate without violence, is that you should never expect a child to act anything other than their own age. So if you take a kid somewhere to a really boring place from a child's perspective and they're 2 or 3 years old and they start getting upset and acting out like a 2 or 3 year old, I just think it's funny whenever adults will try to just be like, why aren't you behaving? They're behaving the way a child does.
Yeah.
And
you're
but
the adult here.
It's up to us, yeah, exactly, to respond in a more effective way and to learn to deal with that. And I say that as an uncle and as a child and as someone hopeful that more people will. Again, like Micah said, you sort of work against your own goals, because the studies, the research are showing that actually you're creating somebody who's not only going to more than likely perpetuate the cycle of violence, but is going to develop antisocial behaviors and, maybe an inability to express themselves without fear of violence.
So what happens when the school spanks you? Come on, that's not even your parent. Anyway, I'm just going off on that. But yeah, we heard from Devil Killing Moth. They'll be in around 4:30. They're caught up in a little Houston rainy area traffic stuff, so that'll be exciting. They had their release at Walters, and it was it was pretty full there. Steve did lights, and it was a really good night. They sounded great, and they've been working on this album for a minute, and I got their new shirt on, so they better show up. Sweet. So they can see
they'll
it.
be playing us some new tracks here soon as they get in here.
Yeah,
and we'll keep bringing.
Just want to let everybody know as we're getting.
Yeah, if you tuned in for Devil Killing Moth, thank you for sure. And if you haven't checked them out, stay tuned, because you're going to enjoy that. And we should have our call-in guest again. And I do want to remind, I don't think Monica has time to call, but I just want to remind you guys again, just so I can really get it out there. If you're in Houston Friday night, come to Avant Garde and check out Super Houston. Check out Super Houston on Facebook. Get involved. If you're not in Houston, I've been telling other people from other cities. We picked up and took the idea running from Detroit. Other people have started it in Austin and other cities. It'd be beautiful to see this flourish elsewhere.
Oh, and it's a fun thing, there's the whole positive where you're doing some good, but separate from doing good for others, you're just it's just a blast. For $5 you can go do something that benefits people, benefits the whole idea of doing things, which is really important in this day and age, and have fun in the meantime. Whew, $5 sounds good.
Absolutely. All right, well, I want to talk about this one story. Apparently dozens of climate activists were arrested yesterday or this weekend in a refinery protest near Seattle. Authorities in northwest Washington state arrested more than 50 climate activists Sunday morning after the group shut down railroad tracks near 2 oil refineries north of Seattle. About 150 people had spent the night in tents and sleeping bags on tracks leading to the refineries near Anacortes, Washington. said BNSF Railway spokesman. When asked to leave around 5 a.m., most gathered their belongings and left, but others, 52 in all, were arrested for trespassing, the Skagit County Department of Emergency Management said. One protester was also cited for resisting arrest. Emily Johnston, a spokeswoman for the protesters, said she expected that the protesters would be released Sunday and that the protests would continue, but she did not expect people to return to the railroad tracks. The rail line had been closed since Friday, with the rail traffic rerouted to avoid the area. The railroad spur provides transportation for nearby Shell and Tesoro oil refineries, as well as animal feed and other products. Officials with Shell and Tesoro earlier said they respect the right of the people to demonstrate peacefully and that the safety is the highest priority. Hundreds of protesters in kayaks, canoes, on bikes, and on foot converged around the area 70 miles north of Seattle to demand action on climate and equitable transition away from fossil fuels such as oil and coal. A smaller group blocked the railroad tracks, and these protests were a part of a series of global actions calling on people to break free from dependence on fossil fuels. Similar demonstrations were held nationwide over the weekend in New York and elsewhere, where people also blocked rail lines and similar pathways for oil refineries. So those guys are out there spreading awareness, doing what they believe in, putting their bodies on the line in some cases, or their canoes on the line, and I appreciate those who do that.
And this isn't so much an activist story, but it is, or a police state story, or any of the stories we typically cover. But we like that. We got to keep it mixed up because otherwise y'all might just get bored. This is one that I meant to cover last week, but couldn't get to. Mystery ship, you may have seen it. Mystery surrounds ghost ship that drifts ashore in Liberia. I thought this was interesting.
Ghost ship.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, one, just because, ships and ghost ships sound really cool, right? But it turns out, and besides, the image is pretty pronounced, it's and I've seen things like this before, but basically it's a oil tanker up on the beach. And so, this is an interesting story. Well, you can get into the full story here, but it was a Panamanian oil tanker that disappeared basically off the coast of Senegal April 21st and seemed to end up on the beach in Liberia May 1st or 2nd or so. No captain, no crew. And some things were destroyed. There's different speculation.
I like ghost ships.
Yeah, there's different speculation as to what happened, but there's also questions like, what about the Liberian Coast Guard officers whose duties it is to know about ships that enter their water? And this turns worrisome because they think, people could have just came on these ships and, ran up into their community with drugs, weapons, whatever it might be. They're not sure, but it's an interesting. You can get into the story a bit more because, like I said, ghost ships washing up in today's time is an interesting thing. Yeah,
nice, interesting stuff. Now I got one here. This isn't really, again, hard hitting anything, but it's kind of interesting. It's kind of a recognition, I guess, of the greatness of mankind that we have now completed the world's, or the first in the United States, penis transplant. And I mean, this is no joke. I mean, shoot, if I lost my penis, I really hope somebody would be coming up with some new technology to help save it. A man whose penis was removed because of cancer has received the first penis transplant in the United States at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. Congratulations, Thomas Manning, 64, a bank courier from Halifax, Massachusetts, underwent the 15-hour transplant on May 8th and 9th.
Does that mean he's taken someone else's penis?
The organ came from a deceased donor. Yes, he has taken someone else's penis. I want to go back to being who I was, he says on Friday in an interview in the hospital room.
Never seen Idle Hands?
Sitting up in a chair. Oh, God, that would be crazy. Like how does a body adjust to... Okay, Mike is having a fit here. He's having a conniption.
Anyway, you can't say things like this without me.
Sitting up in a chair, happy to be out of bed for the first time since the operation. Oh, my God, I cannot... Yeah, I want to say it. Yeah, and I just want to make a bunch of jokes. I'm sorry. This guy's awesome. He said he felt well and had experienced hardly any pain. That's pretty cool. Shoot. That gives me hope. We're cautiously optimistic, says Dr. Curtis.
Us to say shoot.
Yeah, I know. I shoot. You're never going to find me saying that anywhere else. Oh, darn. It's uncharted waters for us. The surgery is experimental, part of a research program with the ultimate goal of helping combat veterans with severe pelvic injuries, as well as cancer patients and accident victims. If all goes as planned, normal urination should be possible within a few weeks, and sexual function in weeks to months. Dang, that's pretty crazy.
It's better than never.
Yeah, I know. That is definitely like you just got to relearn it. I guess you just like, all right, brain, get used to this new thing. Mr. Manning welcomed questions. He said he wanted to speak out publicly to help dispel the shame and stigma associated
freckles
with genital cancer. Yeah, I know. He's like, guys, you couldn't even got me the same skin tone. I mean,
wow, I always wanted to be this way, cut or uncut.
Yeah, he's like, this is new. He will have to take several anti-rejection drugs for the rest of his life. Damn. One of them, tacrolimus, seems to speed nerve regeneration and may help restore function to the transplant. Cool. Another patient, his penis destroyed by burns in a car accident, will receive a transplant as soon as a matching donor becomes available.
Oh, there's some kind of match on it.
I guess so.
Having a penis.
Oh, God. So here's some of the comments. I think Manning's a great guy for speaking out about this, for realizing he has nothing to be ashamed. It's encouraging to see comments of support for Thomas Manning and not a lot of ridicule.
I don't think ridicule, I mean, it's funny in a way, but it's not
about him.
Yeah, it's not the person experiencing it.
And the estimated cost for your new penis transplant, $50,000 to $75,000.
Wow.
And I imagine that's with insurance.
Yeah. So I guess if you're a middle-aged guy or something and you've been missing something in your life.
Well, this is kind of cool, though. This part here says veterans are a major focus of the transplant programs because suicide rates are exceptionally high in soldiers with severe damage to genitals and urinary tract. They're 18 to 20-year-old guys, and they feel they have no hope of intimacy or sexual life, said the doctor. They can't even go to the bathroom standing up. Yeah, I mean, that would make you start thinking some crazy stuff like, dang, I don't think I want to be here. Nobody can even touch me. I can't do anything. Like, I'm peeing all over the place. Like, whatever the case is, I imagine it's not a very fun experience, you know.
No doubt. So it does sound like a great step forward.
Cool. So that's, and just some details here, because we are still in the middle of several wars. From 2001 to 2013, 1,367 men in the military suffered so-called genitourinary injuries in Iraq or Afghanistan.
That's a lot of people, man.
According to the Department of Defense Trauma Registry. Nearly all of them were under 35 and had been hurt by homemade bombs or IEDs. Some lost part or all of their penises. Wow, that's a lot of guys without penises. That's not fun. Yeah, so penile cancer is rare, but it has about 2,030 new cases and 344 deaths every year in the United States.
God, this is a horrible story.
Interesting. Well, the guy got his penis back, though. That's the good part. Ignore all the bad things. The man has new.
No,
has a
it
new
just
penis.
shows you the.
And if all goes well, by the end of this year, that man will be having sex and will be using that penis to his fullest potential.
Yes, fullest potential for sure. You know, the thing about war, you know, like these numbers. You know, we think, oh, this ain't as bad as World War II, Civil War, World War One. My goodness, we had over 1,300 people just in
that specific category.
I wanted to bring a quote up by Hermann Goering, just because I read it recently, and it fits right here. Naturally, the common people don't want war, but after all, it's the leaders of a country who determine the policy, and it's always a simple matter to drag people along with it. Whether it is a democracy, a fascist dictatorship, a parliament, or a communist dictatorship. Voice or no voice, the people can always be brought to the bidding of the leaders. This is easy. All you have to do is tell them that they are being attacked and denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism and exposing the country to danger. It works the same in every country. This is Hermann Goering, Hitler's Reich Marshal at the Nuremberg trial.
Absolutely. I'm going to go to a quick 2-minute break from our friend Gio Chalman. We'll be back with some more news. Stay tuned to Freethinker Radio here on 90.1 KPFT Houston.
still have the alien spacecraft under observance.
That was Geo Chamba on Freethinker Radio here. Check him out at geochamba.bandcamp.com. That's just the beginning of his little EP. Got lots more other good music in there for you, so check him out. We're going to continue with the news now on Freethinker Radio as we await for our guests from Devil Killing Moth and Planet Forward Farms. I want to remind you that you can call in at any point, 713-526-8737, if these stories strike a nerve, if you got something to say, or if we're saying something wrong, or whatever it is. Share your story on Freethinker Radio, 713-526-8737. This one is not the most big story out there, but it's just a question I got. The law is interesting, and when the law doesn't really provide justice for some people, they are willing to take that justice and seek justice in their own hands and their own methods, and this is a case of that, and it's really disturbing. I'll just warn you ahead of time, it's disturbing. But what are your thoughts on this when you hear this? How do you feel? Would you take the law into your own hands? Would you pursue justice? A father of a 7-month-old child says he was left with no other option than to take revenge against a 17-year-old boy who raped his baby daughter after the courts refused to convict, citing a lack of evidence.
Baby.
Yep. The Indian man tied the teen to a tree and chopped off his hands, according to the New York Post, following a refusal to convict the teen of more serious charges associated with the crime. In court, the father said he was willing to forgive the teen and accept cash as compensation, even offering to drive the perv home to, this is as the New York Post wrote, Kotli Ablu, a village in Punjab where they both live. But halfway through the trip, the father stopped the bike, tied the rapist to a tree, and hacked off his mitts with a machete. The father then fled, leaving the teen screaming for help before being found by locals. The Daily Mirror reports that the father reportedly indicated that he was prepared to forgive the teen and accept a compensation deal to limit his punishment. The teen was let go, and the father, of course, chose to take this route for himself. Who knows if he's going to be held responsible? Sources say the cops are still looking for the father, and he's expected to be convicted if caught. And that is a pretty scary story, disturbing story. But yeah, like I said, sometimes people feel like the law doesn't provide them justice in the way that they seek, and we seek to find that justice in our own hands, in our own ways. What are your thoughts on that, Micah?
I don't know. It's
when things are so screwed up that you can't even do anything about it.
I just think one thing. There's a difference between justice and revenge.
Yeah, I will say that's true.
And I'm not always sure that physical violence brings someone to the understanding that what they did was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So,
just like with spanking.
Yeah, it's just difficult to know because we do, like, the purpose of punishment is an educational one, not just to lock someone up because they did this or that. It's to, help them understand what they did wrong, allegedly, you like to steal or whatever. But once they understand they did anything wrong, what's the point of punishment? Chances, I don't know the details of this case, and I don't really know that chopping some guy's hands off is going to teach him not to rape women. He may become an awesome ninja and use his feet to rape them. So seriously, with those considerations, I abstain from any further comment.
Thank you for your contribution to that story, Micah. All right, well, I've got another one unless you want to throw something else out.
Got one here that I thought was kind of interesting. I think it's interesting that the American media is covering it.
Cool,
I'm
I
not
like
even
those ones.
sure of the motivation. See, that's how I am now. With some of these bigwigs, I'm like, what's their motivation? Why are they putting this here? Not that it's just a story that maybe the writer wanted to cover,
Yeah.
But nonetheless, let me go on. I say this because it was found in the New York Times. Chinese man's death in custody prompts suspicion of police brutality. Turns out this is in China. The death of a well-educated environmentalist after plainclothes officers detained him outside a Beijing foot massage parlor last Saturday is rattling nerves in China. Maybe they don't want to put up with police brutality and causing its growing middle class to wonder, how safe are we from our own police? A deluge of articles, online comments, and petitions for justice suggests that many suspected that unjust police violence was at fault in the death of environmentalist Li Yang, 29. who, according to Chinese news media, remember that is state media there,
Yeah.
held a master's degree in environmental science from the prestigious Renmin University and worked for the China Association of Circular Economy, an environmental organization affiliated with the government, like most things there. Mix in speculation about what Mr. Lee, whose wife gave birth to the couple's first child, was doing at the time. But who cares, right? Okay, because foot massage parlor is kind of like a euphemism for a brothel. So, you can get deeper into this, but it turns out like many people, here's one of the comments in the media in China. Li Yang is dead. I don't care what his job was or what his political views were. Commenter also added, I just care that he's dead and that he died while being detained, and all the things that are supposed to aid police during the process of detention were missing. They didn't bring the recording equipment, mobile phones that recorded it were damaged, closed circuit cameras in the area were all broken. And, it just goes deeper. On Wednesday, People's Daily, a mouthpiece for the Communist Party, appeared to push back against the suspicions of police brutality by publishing a rare, detailed interview with the police officer in charge of what the police said was an anti-prostitution raid in Changping, northern district of Beijing, where Mr. Lee was reportedly picked up shortly after 9 p.m. So it says here also, police have not used, the typical stuff, and they argue that he paid for sex and that after he was detained, and he bit officers and tried to escape twice. He said it took officers 20 minutes to subdue him with their bare hands. Yeah. The police said that Mr. Lee had a heart attack while in custody and was brought to a hospital where he was declared dead. According to multiple reports in the news, blah, blah, blah. It goes on further. Could get into it, but I do think it's kind of interesting. Back when I was younger, there was Tiananmen Square, and it's kind of nice when you see in some countries where it's just a outcry, just this human outcry against abuse of authority and power. And, sometimes here we got it so fat and lazy we don't have to, So.
It's important to recognize for sure. All right, well, I got a couple here. This is an interesting study. It says that pesticides in military service may be tied to Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS. More people who have ALS are more likely to have been exposed to toxic pesticides or to have served in the military than similar people without the condition, according to a new study. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, is a degenerative disease in which nerve cells break down over time. It affects fewer than 20,000 people in the U.S. each year. The disease is progressive, eventually affecting the ability to chew, swallow, speak, and breathe. In 2014, the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge went viral on the internet and helped raise $115 million for people towards research towards the cure, and a bunch of people put buckets on their heads. The environmental risk of ALS has been a concern for many years. So this is interesting, though, is people are doing the Ice Bucket Challenge to help research, and the research is finding that, military service and pesticides are a threat and could possibly create, the conditions to have this type of disease. So it seems like to me, more than dumping a bucket of water on your head, then you might want to stop supporting the military and the pesticides if that's what's contributing to, or at least one of the contributing factors to Lou Gehrig's disease or ALS. Just an interesting side note, because I don't know, I remember we were critical for sure of that ice bucket challenge, because it's always funny whenever all of a sudden everybody jumps on board on whatever is the latest trend that they want us to pay attention to or want you to get involved in. And it's funny because the media kind of will want to dictate what you should care about, what you should be concerned about this week.
But you're right. There's we talked about how busy everybody is with day jobs and taking care of the kids, the cat, and the bills. Maybe there's this human heart that wants to take care of things. So they see this ice bucket thing going through their feed. So that's going to dominate their 10% of time that they're going to do something for someone else. So, you're right. It's like that study Facebook did when they try to manipulate people's emotions, So
by manipulating their feeds.
Our guests are here, this is pretty exciting.
We're going to go to a quick song and get them set up, and then we will be back with Devil Killing Moth here on Freethinker Radio on 90.1 KPFT Houston. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be right back.
All right. Welcome back to Freethinker Radio. I'm glad y'all are here. I don't know what's wrong with my headphones today. Sometimes our headphones work and sometimes they don't. We're in a fund drive here at KPFT, and I haven't really mentioned that, but I want y'all to know KPFT does need any support it can get. So there's lots of ways you can support. One way that I don't know what's wrong with those things. One way that you can support is by going to kpft.org. There's a barcode that you can go ahead and print and take to Kroger. And every time you make a purchase, Kroger will donate a certain amount of their profit to KPFT. This is a way you can do it when you don't have that extra money to take out of your pocket or whatever for the for a donation, but you want to help get this music and these ideas and etc. place to get out. And KPFT, unfortunately, is one of the only places that we can on a consistent basis get these ideas out. Other channels, you can maybe hear the local on Thursday or Friday, whatever it is, every once in a while for a very small window. So thanks to KPFT. And anyway, without further ado, we got plenty of time to talk about KPFT. I just wanted to make sure I did thank them. And I'm in the studio right now with Dan and Anton and Ryan. Ryan?
Hello. Yeah.
I was scared. I forgot that. I was like, and Ryan. But yeah, y'all have been on Freethinker Radio before, back when we were on Local Live. So it's really, really nice to have this continuation because we were gone for some time from the airwaves, and we still have some listeners in Australia that followed us from back then, and it's a great opportunity to tie some of this history together. But y'all had a historic event this weekend, the release of y'all's third album, right?
Yeah, we just released Night in the Life of. That's the title of our latest album that we just put out, and we got the copies and everything, and then released it Friday and released it online as well.
Nice. I saw y'all had that sponsored link. I think that's really great. Everybody that does see that sponsored link, that can go the distance to share that link. I mean, if you love Devil Killing Moth, and who can't? Who doesn't? We need to. One of the things I really think about music is, on the mainstream channels, you hear these same songs over and over and over and over. And even if they introduce one new one, people learn the songs. So I think that's something that we have to focus on, is getting people to learn the songs. Like people might recognize this band or that band, and they're friends with them, or they are friends with a band that played with them, so they go to these shows and they learn of the band. But when you start pressing them for what's your favorite song by them and stuff, we need to kind of work people a little bit deeper into the music. I'm not exactly sure how to do that, but I'm going to try to do that some more. And I think if people... one of the things is we have an advantage both here on KPFT and in our community here in Houston to choose our culture. We don't have to just accept what's given. So if you love Devil Killing Moth, or you love any of these bands, if you go that distance and share that, click on that like, all your network of friends is going to... a good percentage of them are going to see that, and they're going to be introduced. We have to step up and do this to a certain degree, or all we're going to have is what we're getting from on high, which no matter what type of music it is, it tends to be about the same 30 songs. No matter what it is, whether they're giving you new music or retread classic rock or anything. So I don't mean to go on a big soapbox about this, but there's so much good music, and then there's some really great music that people just don't hear about. And one of the things I've been asking every act that's come through, it's kind of like, how do we strengthen this? I want to get to talking about your album and all your experience, but I also want to talk about this whole idea of reaching more people with the music. How do we do this? How do we strengthen the Houston music scene or the regional music scene? What are your ideas on that?
Well, our experience with this show was with releasing this album was like working with the community, and we didn't have like a huge budget, so we're not buying ads and papers and stuff like that. So we're just reaching out to a lot of our friends that we saw, on the streets, and a lot of local musicians. They formed a group, Big Hard Sound, and they kind of helped us, passing out flyers and getting the bands booked and making sure the bands are paid. And I think on our side, our thing is just like, we understand, like you were just talking about earlier, a lot of people come to shows and they see a live band and like they're not familiar with them at all. So it's really tough on our end to leave an impression on these people. It's not something they heard on the radio or anything. So you got to kind of grab them right there. So with us, we just try our best to be the best musicians we can, to put on the best show and making an event. And really, last Friday at Walters, Walters is a big part of it. Big Hard Sound is a big group of people that were involved that made it a special night. And we all had fun, and a lot of people met each other.
I think
so
that's
it was like
super
a networking
important.
event.
That one thing we can listen to the CDs, right? We can listen to the music, like here alone, chilling, right? And we can really soak it in, right? And I really there's a distinction between that experience and that music and music entertainment when you're at an event, you know, and I think the main thing is, like you said, people had fun. We have to like let people know that going to these music events is fun, perhaps more fun than going to a similarly priced movie or you know, something like that. And so I think that's a very important part you brought up. You also indirectly were speaking about the network, you know, and turning to each other as resources, basically, like we were speaking in the in between when you said you worked with Big Heart Sound, these other musicians, the people who came together. I know y'all were on Lisa's show here, and you were also on K-True. So you in your time of playing, because y'all been around for a minute, you have attracted people who wanted to, you know, share your music, whether it was K-True or here or South by Southwest or wherever it might be. And now you're at that stage where you do have some like resources you can turn to at moments, you know, when you need that extra.
That's what's great about this city is there's these non-commercial avenues of getting the word out and letting people know who like local music or into exploring and finding new bands. They listen to KPFT, listen to K-True, you know, check out these local community-run stations. Same thing with some of the online blogs and stuff like that. You know, there's people out there, you know, checking out, writing about what's going on, you know.
You're right,
and
you're right.
It's great that, you know, like Dead Dialect was a podcast that we went on, and it was great with them because, like, you have such a diverse listener group.
I saw that one.
Thanks. Yeah, and it's like everything that we're a part of, we learn something new, and they learn something new. We meet new people, and a lot of like at the show, it's like, oh, I'm getting to put a face to the person.
Yeah, we all have different superpowers that we can bring to bear, you know. And when we all come together on something that's these bigger events that we often see, is because it's brought in so many different people that care about it. Because until people know the songs, until people out in the suburbs who are, you know, the main masses of people start to know the songs, we're stuck with, like, you know, dragging the people to shows, trying to tell people how much fun it's going to be. You know, some of the people know, others don't, and then we're left with, you know, the people who can make it. You know, and your show was really a good show. You know, there was probably at least a couple hundred people, 150 people there, and probably more through the whole night because people come and go. But it was beautiful. The lights were beautiful. I mean, it was amazing. It was, you know, top of the line rock show. But the sad thing to me is that we're left often with you know, we put it on broadcast and we all reach as many thousands and thousands of people, and then it's like whittled down to what. It's sad that it's good when we have 150 or 200 people, because this music is so good that we could have, you know, 300 or 400 people or 200 people at your regular shows, not just these, you know, everybody's album releases, whether they're on Visionary Noise or their own album releases or whatever, always get this extra drive because it's so, you know, such a big event, and it's focused on the band and it's their pride, and it makes sense. It should. Well, we need to get the regular shows to that level, and then those to the next level. And I'm sorry to go on about this. It's just my mind is eaten up with this stuff nowadays, more and more so. So I look at this as an opportunity to pick all y'all's brains and start this reflection on how do we, like, you know, do this. And you know what's really interesting is the last 4 acts I've asked this to, everybody's given a different answer. And I think at first I thought I'd get like this like, there was a dumb question, Mike, everybody knows you just got to promote more, this more, or whatever, more. But no, people are giving insightful, experienced answers, and that's really important because there's people in other music scenes that are hearing this and will hear this as the archive goes out and all that. So, you know, I appreciate all that. So you want to tell me a little bit about the process of, let's get into y'all's real work and real art. Like, how did Devil Killing Moth come into being?
Anton and I met in college and at the University of Houston, and I was involved. We were both involved in the concerts and putting out concerts out there and volunteering our time to putting out shows, and then bringing local bands and national acts. And at the same time, me and him were in different bands, and, you know, we started jamming together. And then around 2006, 2007, we started playing out.
You were in an awesome band called Irene.
Yeah, I was in a band called I was in Irene, and he was in a band. Was it Plastered or was it Closure? Yeah. But we're you know, it was more of a heavier, noisier sound. and like me and him kind of just stripped down to like the acoustics and just started getting into songwriting. And it was like it was kind of a phase, because you get burnt out playing live shows and carrying your equipment everywhere. So like, both of us were like in this place where we weren't playing out with our bands, weren't doing much, but we loved music, we loved writing. So we just said, hey, let's just write some acoustic songs. And it kind of grew from there. We spent 5
Period
years
of creativity.
Yeah, it's 5 years just learning our craft and rewriting songs and coming up with different ideas and playing these songs constantly live. And when you're acoustic, you can be playing at a coffee shop for like 2 hours. And try the same song like 3 different ways. We had a lot of enjoyment doing that. And as it grew, we ran into Ryan, and Ryan joined on percussions, and he really opened up our sound because like we had that foundation of where we wanted to go, but like we couldn't get that heavy because we didn't have a drummer. And we wanted people to dance. And we had some dance songs that they needed that drums, and Ryan just fit in perfect. Mm-hmm. And his style added to what DKM was becoming. And after that, we ended up putting my little brother on djembe and background vocals because he has a matching tone with my voice. And he had a djembe and just kind of one of those jamming with us one day, and we're like, hey man, you sound like me when you sing. Why don't you just play some shows with us? And he just started playing with us, and we got Chris Dunaway on bass. Kind of gave a fuller
sound to the vocals and even the drums to some degree.
Yeah,
because Ryan's awesome, but there's that repetitive nature of this particular drum, and it just broadens it. I saw. It's a whole different band. I'm sorry for bringing them up, but JBS Real. Obviously, he does a lot of this one-man band stuff. Well, then I saw him with Bootleggers, and he had band, right? But then I saw him again with Bootleggers, where he still did the one-man band thing, okay, but they had Paluxon on drums, too. Mm-hmm. So it just put, like, this extra, I guess, like, when double bass first came out, it just put this extra here and there. So that's definitely pretty exciting. And like you said, Chris...
Chris joins the band, and he, again, we were looking for musicians to put in their own thoughts into the project, and Chris is an amazing bass player. We've seen him so many of our local favorite bands. He's been a part of Moth, Giant Battle Monster. He's a very progressive player. So we're like
that Giant Battle Monster vinyl.
and we were timid at first just to ask him to jam with us because we're not like making tons of money or anything, and like, but he we're like, hey, if you like the sound, you want to jam with us, and 3 years later, we're here, and this album is called A Nine to Life of because it really is about our collaboration between the whole band, everybody putting in their ideas, and my little brother ended up writing a part of the song. Chris sings lead vocals on a song that he wrote and brought from another band.
Is that the Get Up?
Yeah, the Get Up.
Yeah. That's a great song. That was one of the ones I wanted to play. All the songs are really good. I need to listen to the whole album. I looked at the back of it when I picked it up the other night at the release, and I'm like, I'd been listening to some of the songs and playing them here and such. So a lot of the songs I know, but that doesn't mean, and some of the fans know, so they're very happy to get the copy.
Yeah, because we were playing some of this stuff. We're working this stuff out the past 2 years. So have you seen it at a house party or?
Yeah, you love these songs already. So get the album.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really nice. So the album is varied. It's not like it doesn't just follow one flow. It has a lot of different expression in it.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak to that any or?
It's everybody's individual input and the ebb and flow, the emotions that we put into the song. And
which song do you think we should play? We're getting down to about 12 minutes. I want to make sure at least we get your top choice, even if we don't get the top 2 choices. So
the Get Up.
The Get Up, y'all cool with that? We'll play more on other days, but I want to make sure we at least while you're here play one that y'all are into. This is a great song. I love the way it kind of contrasts what we do and what is. This is a very lyrically witty song, I think. And y'all have a lot of profound songs, and this is profound in a little bit of a different way. I do appreciate.
Get up, you put up, you shut up until you start to get it. The get up, you put up, you shut up until you realize it's a get up that you put on. Yes, you tell yourself it doesn't feel wrong. Get up that you put on, and you shut Shut up until you start to get it down. Get up, you put up. Shut up until you realize the road leads nowhere. Don't care what you you get it down. Don't care how you get it down.
All right, so that was the Get Up from Devil Killing Moth's latest album. It's an amazing song. If you've heard it live, I'm sure it's probably made you smile. I love that song. We could spend a whole episode talking to you guys. We've worked with you guys on a number of things. You've played a few benefits. You played a number for the communities. You know, a band of your statures, it's amazing that you even one time you all wanted to open for the community, which was a tremendous lead for all these other bands that are like, I don't want to play at 3 or 4. I'm like, well, Devil Killing Moth played. You can just be quiet. But I want to make sure that our listening audience and the people who are hearing this on the archive know what's next for Devil Killing Moth. You know, they can explore this. They're going to find this album. What's next? What else do they need to know? How can they find everything Devil Killing Moth, and where's y'all's next couple of shows?
You can check us out at devilkillingmoth.com. It takes you to the link to all our songs that we have, and I mean you'll see us on Spotify. But I think our next show will be on Jeff Fest, and it's in memory of one of our dear friends that passed away a couple of years ago, and how he's been a center to our music scene and how he's pulled us through. And
it's interesting you bring him up. His show used to be right after ours on Local Live.
Yeah,
and he was someone who worked hard for the music scene, and you know his for sure, the Montrose music scene, Montrose Rock Revel. He did a lot, and you know, he was out there, but it just shows how much is under the surface with every one of us, and we have to take care of our community. And I'm so glad that y'all are bringing extra attention to that, because even if we don't focus on that, people do think about that during Jeff Fest. Where's it going to be this time?
I believe it's going to be at Avant Garden.
Nice.
And again, the proceeds go to suicide prevention.
For sure.
And, we don't have any further details. I believe Wit's the only other band right now that's on there, but that's cool enough for me.
Yeah,
nice.
Definitely stay tuned when you see Jeff Fest.
So for the close up, any shout outs to anybody? Who are some of your favorite acts?
Let Ryan talk a little bit.
Ryan's been and we don't get to see Ryan. He's been like doing so many. That's what I always have to. I'm like, I can't stop.
Yeah, give it out to Rex Hudson, Tauntauns. Give it out to Only Beast, all the bands that play with us. Linear Downfall. Give it out to.
How about that crazy Only Beast guitarist that's sitting there? Peter's playing. He's sitting there playing bass and guitar. You know, it's amazing. There's so many good acts, and then there's amazing acts in Houston, and y'all really managed to move mostly with just good and amazing. So maybe it's they're attracted to the quality of y'all's work. I appreciate everything, and I'm so glad y'all came back onto Freethinker Radio. It's good to have a revisit from good friends, and we definitely will be playing more Devil Killing Moth over the next few weeks. And thanks again. And we're going to close out here in a little bit. We're going to wrap up. If y'all got any questions for Devil Killing Moth, well, we don't have time for questions. Okay, well, we're going to get back to news now. So thanks, guys. All right, so Derek's going to talk to y'all. I'm going to help our guests out and make sure we all keep moving. Thanks again. And when y'all get this archive, please share it.
Absolutely. Thanks again to Devil Killing Moth. Check their music out if you guys have not yet. They're good friends of ours, and as Micah said, they've been around since the beginning. We've been playing benefit shows, working with them over the last 5 or 6 years, and we're really thankful to people like that who, do what they can in their community to spread awareness and to, to have a good time. Like they put on some great music. They've got a lot of good followers here in the city, and we support that because there will not be an evolution of the hearts and minds until we awaken ourselves through music and through art and through the culture around us, and a lot of people aren't going to be just reached through politics and through activism. This is one of the big things I try to help my friends and other activists recognize, is that there's some people out there who won't really get the message of what we're doing and trying to spread awareness and trying to empower our communities if they hear it through a sign or somebody handing them a flyer or yelling at them from a street corner. Some of these people, though, they might come to a show, they might come to a festival or some kind of community gathering and experience music and experience art and an environment where they feel like they can be themselves, and then all of a sudden that leads them to question things and to say, what is this? Who are these people? Why have they created this awesome space where I can be myself? And that's what we're trying to do here through Freethinker Radio, through the Houston Freethinkers community, through Visionary Noise, through everything that we do. We are trying to empower the people of Houston, to inform you, to educate you, to have a good time, and to do it as quickly as possible, because I will say that there is a sense of urgency with spreading awareness. I think we should all have that. If we build empowered selves as individuals, we work on ourselves and we empower ourselves and build ourselves up, and then we empower each other, our communities, through the internet and then through face-to-face communication, we're going to create something just amazing that I believe we've never seen before. If you've got something to say in the next minute or two, feel free to call in at 713-526-8737. And I also have a brand new announcement. Beginning in June, I will be doing a new show following Freethinker Radio. It's going to be a show about addiction. Myself and John Vibes, who is my co-author, we've written a couple of books. He's out of Maryland. And we're going to host this show together, talking about our past addictions and dealing with addiction and various aspects of addiction, not just drugs, but other things. We'll have call-ins where you can talk about your experience. We'll have guests who will talk about the study and research they have done on addiction. Lots of exciting things. And as I'm sitting here talking to you guys, I'm literally looking at 13 different tabs of information and knowledge that I might write articles on. But even if I don't, I think these are important pieces of information for you. And if you want to find out more about these, then go to Freethinker Radio. Look at a Facebook event for today, Freethinker Radio, live music with Devil Killing Moth. You'll see that one. And you'll see all the articles we've talked about today. It's so hard to cover everything in 2 hours. It's very difficult to talk about all the important things, not only in our own city and the things we want you to get involved with, but around the country, because there's so much, and you have a choice every day, where you spend your energy, your time, and, you only have so many hours in each day. So I appreciate those who spend some of their week with us, some of their day with us, and hopefully those of you who are listening are checking out the links and sharing them with other people and doing your own research and maybe sharing the archives. We appreciate all that. I want to remind you one more time, if you're in Houston this week, Friday night, go to Avant Garden for the Super Houston Compassion Party. It's a great thing. You'll appreciate that. And then also, the next day, you can either go to the March Against Monsanto in Houston near the Galleria. You can go to the North Houston Freethinkers Community Potluck and Park Cleanup. You can find that on the North Houston Freethinkers Facebook page. And there's tons of other exciting events going on. Sunday, there's also the Sunday Streets. Get out, ride your bike, get into the community, go jam in the park, do whatever you want. Have fun, spread love, spread awareness. That's what we're about here. This is all the time we got for today. We're going to close out with a song from Say Girl Say. Hope you guys enjoy this. Remember, as always, you are beautiful, you are free. Peace.